Dear friends, hello everyone, I'm with you again, TheDeinekoArtem, and in today's video we will have a review of the new version of Minecraft 1.215. That is, this is not a review from a snapshot, but a full version which was released 40 minutes ago. Here you can see that I'm actually playing on version 1.2, 1.5 of Minecraft. Even Fabric has already been released. I went to it, even installed mods. That is, 40 minutes ago the version was released, and now finally there. Immediately, literally promptly released mods for this version, and also Fabric. Today we will look at all the changes that have been added to this version of Minecraft. New cows, new pigs. What bugs have been fixed here? I will tell you and show you everything in detail. So don't forget to like, subscribe to my channel, and click the bell if you haven't done so. Well, now we move on to our review. Let's go! So, let's start with the most important thing that was added in Minecraft version 1.215. I remind you that this is no longer a snapshot, this is a full version 1.215. It came out literally 40 minutes ago. Here I am recording this video. And the most important thing is test blocks. Those who watched all my videos on snapshot reviews already understand what kind of blocks these are, plus or minus how they work. In general, these are blocks specifically for developers, not for ordinary players. We can use them as decoration, for example. Put them on our heads. It will look cool. We have two types of blocks, a test instance block and also a regular test block. This block reads the territory. Accordingly, we can download, update the test that we are conducting, save the structure, and so on. And we also have this test block which has 4 statuses. The first status is normal. That is, this is what this texture looks like. That is, we have testing first. That is, redstone signals. Then, if we want to change this type and functionality of this test block, we click on this button. And, for example, now we already have a log. That is, we have a message output. Now we can stop testing. That is, testing is stopped, if, for example, in case of failure. And also successful testing, in case of successful testing. Accordingly, we have accept written here. And here we have such a smiley, that is, 4 types of blocks. Accordingly, if we have some structure and, for example, some developer wants to test it, that is, for bugs, for lags, and so on, he puts a texture here, loads it, makes his own design there, and accordingly can check it for bugs or lags. And also, dear friends, as you remember, the texture of these blocks was changed recently. Literally in some previous snapshot, maybe somewhere a week or 2 ago. And now these test blocks look like this with the new texture. The next item that was added is just a regular bush. It is called a bush. That is, it is just a decorative bush that can be found in almost any biome of Minecraft. It can reproduce in this way. That is, as you can see, it simply reproduces in 4 blocks. For example, we have a regular bush, we poke it with bone meal, and it turns out that bushes appear counterclockwise in this way. We can get them with scissors in this way, or for example, enchant a pickaxe with silk touch, or any tool with silk touch, and also get this bush in this way. Then we have a bush with fireflies. It also reproduces like a regular bush in Minecraft. That is, in this way, in 4 blocks. It appears in swamps and near rivers in Minecraft. And also, if we, for example, set time set night, they will glow like this. Such beautiful particles will appear and also make sounds. That is, if I, for example, set the sounds to 100%, then you will now hear the sounds of fireflies. Well, as for the bushes, now we have new grass. This is short dried grass and also a large long dried grass. Accordingly, we can find it in the desert. This is what this grass looks like. That is, we can also multiply it, make it higher, and in general, this is also a useless block, that is, just a decorative one, which you can find in Minecraft. Another thing I forgot to add to this bush, that is, to this dried grass. Now, if, for example, you shear your sheep, some sheep that you tamed, or just runs around the world in Minecraft, you shear, it can eat this grass, that is, the sheep can eat this dried grass, and it will immediately renew, it turns out, its wool, and you can shear it again. Next, what is most interesting, these are new, it turns out, cactus flowers. Minecraft players have been waiting for them for a long time, and now you can find them on the cactus itself. Take, for example, a workbench, put this cactus flower here, and get such a beautiful pink dye. That is, in fact, this is just a cactus flower from which we can get pink dye. And also this flower, it turns out, does not break cactus farms. Well, and accordingly, you can make an additional farm on these flowers, not only cacti, but also a dye farm. Also, new foliage was added, which can lie like this on the grass, on the ground, that is, fallen leaves. If we want to get it, we can take coal and also just ordinary leaves, and smelt them in a regular furnace and get this, that is, fallen leaves, leaf lighter. It looks beautiful, and also if we, for example, go to some tree, in some forest, for example, I have an oak forest, you will see here that you have new fallen leaves like this. And also such beautiful particles of foliage that fall in Minecraft. This is how it looks very beautiful. I like it in autumn. Well, if we go back here to our location, we will see that in this way you can smelt just your ordinary leaves, fallen leaves, and like this it will lie on the ground, also for decorative purposes. New wildflowers, thanks to which we can get yellow dye, that is, they look like dandelions, only these are wildflowers that can appear in meadows or birch biomes. For example, in a birch forest, that is, just a redrawn texture of these dandelions that are in regular Minecraft, for example. If we go to natural blocks and find a dandelion here, that is just a redrawn, it turns out, texture. Well, it looks cool and complements your Minecraft world. Also regarding sounds in the new Minecraft 1.215. For some reason, the developers took and made the sounds of grass, absolutely any grass blocks, quieter, that is, if we take, for example, a grass block, just take regular grass and put it in Minecraft, that is, the sound will now be much quieter than, for example, some other blocks, for example, if I put a workbench. Let me even demonstrate this to you. Again, I will set the sounds, for example, to 50%, and let's take some blocks. For example, a tree, and take grass. And here I put, for example, oak logs. That is, for some reason, the developers took and made grass blocks quieter, I don't know why. The developers also changed the sounds of iron blocks, that is, all blocks that are made of iron. This also applies respectively to bars. Well, and for example, iron doors, well, there are slabs and so on. Also, if we are, for example, in the desert, and there is such dried grass near us, then we hear the sounds of some wind, as if something is rushing past us. Such a very cool sound of the desert. Well, that's not all, of course, because the developers also added new characters for the wolves. For example, if I write play sound, write my nickname. Well, you don't even need to specify your nickname here. I'll just write wolf. I'll see a large number of new wolves here. For example, wolf angry. For example, an angry wolf, wolf big. We also have cute and many other wolves. And they also have their own characters, also their own sounds that they can make, and this is very cool. Who hasn't watched my previous snapshots, you can watch. For example, here we have cute wolf, which makes the sound ambient. Well, you probably don't hear it because my sounds are quiet. For example, I'll set it to 32%, and now you can listen, for example, to any sounds of the new wolves. Now let's move on to the most important update. These are new cows and also new pigs. There are warm, cold, and regular ones. They also changed the texture of the regular cow. They added new horns that look like this. They also added a muzzle, that is, it became more convex, and that is 3D. They also slightly changed the texture, respectively. For the pig, if I'm not mistaken, they also slightly changed the texture, and for the sheep. Two types of new cows appeared. I don't know if they are bulls or cows. Accordingly, we have a warm cow and also a cold cow. That is, this is our warm, this is our cold. And we also have a pig, that is a regular pig, a cold pig, and also this cold one. And this one here, accordingly, is a warm pig. A warm pig spawns in warm biomes, for example, in the desert. Somewhere else, in the savanna, for example. Such a pig spawns in a regular biome, that is, in such meadows there in some oak forest and so on. Well, and accordingly, a cold one spawns there in the taiga somewhere, where there is a lot of snow and so on. Well, and the same applies to cows. There is a warm cow, a cold one, and a regular one. The regular one spawns, again, in meadows, for example, where I am now. We also have a warm one, which spawns exactly there in the savanna, in the desert, and so on, and a cold one in the taiga or in snowy biomes. Also, new eggs and varieties of chickens have appeared for chickens. We have, respectively, a regular egg, a brown egg, and a blue egg. Blue egg is our snowy, that is, cold chicken. Let me try to spawn it. So for some reason it doesn't want to spawn. Oh, it spawned. Here, this is our cold chicken. There is also a brown egg, that is, a warm chicken spawns from this egg. This is what it looks like, and also a regular egg, respectively, a regular chicken spawns. Well, these chickens also appear by default, again, in a cold biome, warm, or in a regular biome. Well, it turns out that they lay eggs like these, which we can then break and get a certain chicken of a certain type. In recent snapshots, the developers wanted to add a feature that a sheep of a certain color will, again, appear in certain biomes and spawn with a certain, there's some small percentage. This, was changed by Mojang, and now we can have different sheep of different colors in one biome. For example, in the meadows, we can have black, white, and gray sheep. Although earlier Mojang told us that black ones would appear, if I'm not mistaken, in cold biomes, brown sheep would appear in warm biomes, and accordingly, regular white ones, that is, in the meadows, there, and in other biomes. Now this change has not come into effect, that is, they rolled it back. And now we can have sheep of different colors in the regular, accordingly, biome. That is, I have a brown sheep spawned, black, gray, and white, just in the meadows. Next comes one of my favorite updates on this version, this fallen tree, which looks like this. That is, if we, for example, find some forest, there a birch, oak, or even a spruce forest, we can see a fallen tree. That is, somewhere here I saw a fallen tree. Here we have a fallen birch, and birches can be long or short like this. By the way, as you can see, here we have wildflowers appeared in the birch biome, and also a fallen birch like this. That is, accordingly, they spawn in our regular Minecraft, without mods, without anything like that. We can't place mushrooms on them, but these mushrooms can appear on fallen trees. And accordingly, fallen trees can be oak, birch, or for example, spruce. Also, as you can notice, I think you have noticed this for a long time, that trees also have these particles of falling leaves. They are not particularly different, that is, for some reason, even spruce trees have these particles of fallen leaves. These particles. I don't know why Mojang didn't remove them, ate them, but strange, but it still exists. In principle, they are not different in any way, that is, for example, the only difference is in what biome this falling foliage is located. That is, for example, in the desert, if you somehow spawn a tree there, the foliage will fall in a brighter color, for example, in the savanna and so on. And from spruce biomes, respectively, the leaves fall of a greener color, that is, well, they're even less green color, that is, a little dull color than in oak biomes. Now they have changed the crafting of magnetite. If before it was difficult to craft, and few of the players use this magnetite because it is useless, like why if there are coordinates and a compass? Now, magnetite is crafted in the following way. We will need 8 such stones, and also in the middle we simply put an iron ingot. And accordingly we get such a magnetite which we can use for its intended purpose, that is, take, for example, a compass, click the right mouse button while we are pressing, and this compass will be tied to the magnetite, or we can simply use it for decorative purposes. Finally, what I have been asking Mojang for a long time is effective. This is a lighthouse. That is, if we now fly far, far away from this beacon, then the beam will not disappear much. That is, if I, for example, flew all the way here, we can still see the beam, and when I raise my head, it does not disappear. In previous snapshots and versions, it disappeared, and it looked terrible. That is, for example, you raise your head, that's it. This beacon is gone, you look at it straight, it appears. Mojang fixed this, thank you very much to them. And what I did not expect from Mojang at all is that they changed the spawn eggs. That is, now you can easily find the spawn eggs in the inventory of the mob you need. For example, we see that this is a fox. Here we see that this is a creeper. That is, we can understand where each mob is located directly from the icons. And accordingly, you no longer need to aim at some egg and look for a mob. Now you can easily find it directly from the picture. Here you can see that this is our frog. That is a frog. Here we have a cow. Here is a pufferfish. And accordingly, we can spawn them. And yes, these are the same mobs that we displayed here. Well, and as you understand, all this without mods, without texture packs, it's all just built into Minecraft. For now, because I don't have any resource packs really, I'm not deceiving you. Now, if we take an anvil and also put here, for example, a tag, call it somehow, this tag, and take a squeaker. Put this name tag on it, and now this, accordingly, mob, that is, the squeaker, will not despawn. If we don't kill him, he will live peacefully during the day and won't die. Even if we set it, for example, to time set night, if we set it to time set day, he won't despawn at all and will follow you around all the time and try to kill you, despite the fact that it's, for example, daytime. Also, as for camels, now camels can simply spawn in regular Minecraft in the desert. regardless of whether you've been to villages before or not. That is, before, in order to find a camel, you had to visit at least one village of inhabitants in the desert. That is, there was such a mechanic. It has now been specifically fixed. And now you can easily find a camel in a regular desert, even without finding a village in Minecraft. And also animals, that is, various mobs, pigs, cows, and so on, can spawn in the new forest, where this creature called Badlands lives. The cartographer now sells new maps of various biomes depending on the biome in which you buy maps from this resident cartographer. Now, certain villages and structures will appear. For example, if you find residents in the desert there, accordingly, this cartographer will sell you the coordinates of a temple or other structures. That is, everything now depends on the biome in which you will trade with this cartographer. Now, if we take leather boots and jump into loose snow, for example, in creative mode, then we will fall like this from a great height, even though we are now in leather boots. Survival works the same way, that is, I set the survival mode, and I fall into loose snow in leather boots. If I just walk on loose snow in these boots, then I do not fall, I can even jump. But if I still jump from some great height, accordingly, I can already fall into this loose snow, but I will not receive any damage. Now, when trading with a traveling merchant, this merchant can buy baked potatoes, a sheaf of hay, a spider's eye, a bucket of water, milk, a bucket of milk, or a bottle of water from you. And also this traveling merchant can sell you either an invisibility potion, an enchanted pickaxe, or just a regular pickaxe, and also some specific wood. That is, it can be spruce wood, oak, or birch. If you take a loaded crossbow, then the crossbow will indicate what arrows are in this crossbow. For example, now we have an arrow with night vision, that is, with night vision. We can shoot like this at any mob, and now this villager has night vision. And also now, if we, for example, take some chest, NBT, a chest with items, for example, in this chest we have birch boards. If we press shift and also take the mouse wheel to this chest, then now it will be written in the chest when we point at it what items are in this chest. Exactly the same as with shulkers. This applies to all functional blocks, for example, a stove. If we take an NBT stove with coal or some other items, it will also display what is in this stove when we hover over this block in the inventory. The bags that were added in previous versions of Minecraft can now be found in villages, in forges, or in other chests in the village. In absolutely any. And they can spawn in any color, for example, just a regular bag, or you can come across a light gray bag. These are the kind of cool things. Also, pale gardens now take up a little more space, and special mansions and structures can now even appear in them. Now it takes up more space, and I think it's cool because at first I thought, why is this biome so small? How can any structures fit there? Or how does it even work in pale gardens? Finally, they have been enlarged, and structures can also appear there, and also text components and commands. If you write some command, will use SNBT. New game rule TNT explodes if we write false, then now dynamites in our Minecraft will not be able to explode at all. That is, no matter how we set them on fire, they will not explode at all. And I think this is cool, for example, on servers and so on. The fact that you will not be able to explode dynamite in any way now. And, for example, your friends will not be able to grief you, or make fun of you, and troll you. And also the very last thing, this is a new panorama in Minecraft. Now it looks like this. We have here most of the updates that were added to version 1.0 from 1.5 are now displayed on the panorama. That is, these are new pigs, also new cacti, that is, cactus flowers. We see dried grass here and many other updates. Dear friends, I hope you enjoyed this review of the new version of Minecraft 1.215. If so, be sure to like it, subscribe to my channel, and click the bell if you haven't done so. Well, I was with you, TheDeinekoArtem. Thank you all for watching. Good luck to everyone. Bye to everyone, friends.